Welcome back, everyone, to the EULCS Summer Playoffs, where Schalke 04 are just one win away from making the first final in their history and giving us a brand new finalist in the EULCS. They are up 2-0 over Vitality. It was all about Nukeduck and his Irelia in that last game. But tonight is also the biggest battle so far in the upset versus Attila rivalry between the two young AD carries that honestly have exploded onto the EULCS scene.
Yes, they have. Throughout the year, these two have gone back and forth in some choice words. They've had a lot of tense games, and often it went in the favor of Attila. But so far this series, Upset has been the one making a name for himself.
It did, but if we look back at their history, it all started back in Challenger when Attila and Giants, they beat Upset and Schalke in the promotion tournament. And then and there, we were also looking a lot at Upset. He had a lot of hype, and Attila thought, then many true packs, oh no, sir, this is my game to win.
Yeah, that was a full-on 5-game best of 5, and the winner would secure a spot in the European LCS. And as you said, many expected Upset to be the favorite. Everyone considered him to be this prodigal new AD carry, but Attila was the consistent playmaker. He was the guy that was helping his team secure that win and solidifying a spot here in the European LCS.
After all that, though, both of the teams eventually made it into the ELCS, or both of the players, rather, both Upset and Attila, and that is where the rivalry continued. And it was two very different stories. Coming into 2018, Upset had a lot of hype behind him. He was praised as the second coming of Sven, of Reckless, and the entire star-studded roster of Schalke 04 was built around him. However, in spring, also due to his illness, it was never really Upset's moment. And on the other hand, Attila said, well, then it's my moment, and you're never talking about me. Maybe I am the AD carry you should be looking at.
Yeah, last split, one of the biggest issues that Upset faced was his inconsistency. It's very easy to think back to their game versus G2, second half of the split, where Upset was on this fed Tristana. Everyone had their eyes on him to make the plays, to be the carry, to secure the Upset win. But then he jumped into 5 members, he got caught out of position, and he ended up losing the game. And so many times we were building up this player, and then when it mattered most, he could not perform.
And on the other hand, in spring, it was all about Attila and those rookies in Vitality. They had a monster first split in the LCS, and he made himself known as some of the AD carries to keep in your head when you're talking about European AD carry superstars.
And when we think back to that 3rd place match at the end of spring last split, it was Attila who was outperforming Jiizuké in many ways, because we looked at that guy as being the big carry for the team, and eyes continued to be drawn away. But Attila was the man that was consistently finding great plays in the bottom lane. He was the guy that if you invested resources into, you knew you could find advantages. And you only have to look back to some of their games from the regular season where you put this man on a carry and he will perform.
And this is how we ended up in playoffs. Now we have Schalke 04 versus Vitality. So obviously we are looking at those two carries to put their mark on the games, but it has not been Attila's day. It has been Upset's day, and it has been Upset's couple of weeks. He was great. He carried Schalke to their semifinal when they played Splice last week, and he has been cutting up great numbers today. In his first game on Ezreal, 1,505 damage per minute. Oof. Upset is here to take the series home.
It looks like he certainly is. He even managed to get a kill directly onto Attila when he was being dived by 4 members of Vitality. Upset is definitely having the better of this rivalry in today's best of 5, but there is still the opportunity for a comeback in this series. Attila, he had a better early game in Game 2, and perhaps if Vitality change up their style and invest more resources into him, he could be the deciding factor that helps take Vitality to finals.
It's incredibly exciting to see Upset fulfill his potential so far, and unfortunately, Attila has not been able to put his mark on the series, and with that, now Vitality is down match point. If Schalke take this last game, they find themselves in their first final ever. What is it going to take?
Well, I think they just need to keep doing what they're doing. VandeR and Upset are working extremely well together. The fact that so many supports have been banned away from VandeR, yet he's having a great performance on this Shen, amazing on the Skarner, is just kind of taking all the pressure off of Upset to just let him do what he does best, which is be a carry. You only have to look at a couple of his numbers on your screen right now to indicate how impactful he has been so far in this series, and I think the Schalke don't really need to change much.
We will see if that happens for Vitality. It is all on the line. if they had to change one thing to put the series back in their hands, what would it be? What do you want to see changed?
I want to see them taking Amazing off of that Skarner. If he is able to, if they put him on a slower pace jungler, Kikis can have much more control over the early game, and that is where we see a much more comfortable Vitality perhaps net out a win.
We'll see, and we'll see if it is Upset fulfilling his potential at getting Schalke to finals, or if Attila and Vitality can pull it all back and put themselves back in the race. Let's see what happens and head over to our casters for Game 3.
Thank you very much, Sjokz. I absolutely love your last question. What can Vitality do? So I'm going to turn to Deficio and ask the same question. They have picked red side again. So what would you like to see them do in this potential final game?
So I don't feel like the support bans are too effective based on how well the Shen is doing. But the main thing I'm looking at is the mid lane matchup. Because right now, we just saw a Talia blind pick against the player who's played the most champs in the EU LCS. He blocks in Irelia. They win one fight mid, he's 2-0, Talia is useless. I think the mid lane is too big of an issue for Vitality to ignore.
And specifically, I think they can look for a mid lane pick earlier in the draft. If they want to take it third and then ban away 2 counters, if they want to get the Galio before Schalke have the option to ban that away in the second phase, then that's where I'm going to be looking personally.
So, no reason for Schalke to change anything. Thresh is normally their last ban. There's the Skarner, so already we dropped the double support ban against VandeR. You can still ban Alistar if you want to. I think it's his best pick. But at this point, you might just not ban any support.
Yeah, I might even see an Ezreal ban thrown this way, a champion that's been there consistently and worked so well for Schalke.
The only thing is, Vitality did actually win bot lane last game with the Varus.
True.
And I think that's what Schalke are reading here and saying, you know what, we actually don't want to play Varus Ezreal necessarily again. Amazing and his champ pool once again comes into question. Sejuani is available, Skarner is now banned. What is he picking?
And also, will Schalke lock in a support first? I think last week we saw a couple of Braum first picks on blue side. Ezreal is the ban away from Vitality.
I would have banned Alistar myself.
Alistar up, they're going to take it.
That's scary, especially because I was looking at Jactroll at maybe getting his hands on that champion. As it stands, it's going to be difficult to find something that can shut that pick down. The Braum was left open, so of course Jactroll will go over to that
instantly.
We're making big changes.
Kikis was not happy with the Trundle apparently. Did not feel like he had the impact he needed. Amazing. The Gragas is there for you. You can take that against the Kindred. Your ulti is extremely effective against her. Will he go for... Even though the Gragas didn't work, it was actually bad from him in the quarterfinals.
Now, when I was looking at Amazing solo queue, the Lee Sin was his second most played champion this season, but switches it back, goes to the Poppy now. We expect this to be top lane for Vizicsacsi. He's so good on that champion.
Do we get Kai'Sa now from Upset? When Ezreal's gone, Kai'Sa is then the second in line. It works well with the Alistar. Can be a bit of a tricky lane, however, we don't fully know. But I think on the Vitality side, we're getting things like a Draven or something, or Misfortune, you know, something Attila's already picked if he wants to really bully the lane.
Especially after you see the Kai'Sa get locked in, because you want to shut this champion down early on. Great predict right there on the Draven coming through. Now, again, this is a game where we want Vitality to play around this bottom lane, but they can't be making those mistakes they did early on in the last one.
Yeah, because the last time they picked the Draven, they hard-camped bot lane and they won it so easily. Like, you just start tower diving already before you hit level 6, and the Kai'Sa can't really defend herself properly, but the Alistar's there to help, obviously, trying to play defensive. We get a full screen on Yamato Cannon, the coach who is currently in a tough spot with his team being 0-2.
Now, with Vitality banning away the Maokai, they're actually expecting this Poppy to go into the jungle here for Amazing. It is definitely a flex pick, but I want to see that for Chachi.
I mean, of course, normally Chachi gets it. I tried to make the prediction last week of him. You know, it was Amazing playing Poppy and Chachi playing Java, and that completely backfired in Game 5. But Endo, you did say much earlier that in solo queue, it was Poppy and Skarner. They were kind of the new ones we saw from Amazing side, so it looks like his pick so far.
Does Shen get banned as the second pick? If this Poppy goes in the jungle, could Chachi play Shen and give Nukeduck something else?
I think mainly the early pick Shen, you know, for VandeR has been kind of the key thing. Yasuo ban coming in on the side of Vitality. They did this in Game 1, but not in Game 2.
Yeah, so now Vitality, I want to see them pick a top laner coming out of this. Just assume that it is going to be a Poppy top lane.
Yeah,
Take
you pick
a
Ornn
Sage
anyway.
top lane. Yeah, take an Ornn, take Cho'Gath, something along those lines, because I want to see Jiizuké with the counter pick. And the Zilean ban, this is an NALCS classic, because what they do is they pair Zilean with the Kindred for permanent survivability, and especially with an aggressive jungler. So I was actually in NA talking with some of the teams during week 9, and they said specifically with aggressive junglers, you want to run this combo, because they can go so far in, Kikis can go so far in, and be revived twice.
Very interesting, though, that Schalke potentially predict this against Vitality, because we have not seen them use Zilean already. But the Sion pick is locked in. So what you wanted, Ender, you wanted the top lane, and then last pick for Jiizuké, that's what I wanted, to make sure you get a better mid matchup. You don't want that Talia versus Irelia thing you had before where it completely backfired. Now, what can Jiizuké pick here with his last pick? Things like Galio is still available, and they have Sion to engage, and it has been his preferred choice.
Galio's been the best option here for Jiizuké. He's also just been a player that's loved to do stuff like the Echo, like the Talon in the past. So personally, I would love to see something like that to spice things up, but it will go back to the best consistent champion here for Jiizuké and fill a similar role to that Zilean, where it gives a lot of protection for an aggressive player such as Kikis.
Yeah, I like it for snowballing the side lanes. In a teamfight setup, this Vitality comp again is pretty hard to execute. Your Sion is your main engage, but he gets stopped the first time he smacks into someone. And your Kindred actually rather play backline and play like defensive, where Galio wants to dive in, but it feels like a lot of protection for Attila. If he gets ahead in this game, he can solo win for his team.
Now, one of the strongest things about this Poppy pick for Schalke is that it can just knock away the front line and give you access to the back line. But what Cabochard can do on the Sion is use his ultimate to tank the Keeper's Verdict, stay in place, and that's what I'm going to be looking at in these team fights to make sure the team fights don't get disrupted like we're used to seeing.
So little margin for error. You talked about it, gentlemen.
Dude.
One of the key points for Vitality's team composition or their play style to win was easy to execute team comps. It was one of the three things.
Not the case today with actually all 3 drafts they've played. They've all been very hard to play, and the moment you fall behind, they have very little comeback potential. And it's the same thing here. If you look at this draft, if Attila is not getting ahead, this team suddenly will really struggle in team fights.
Well, you could hear the Golden Hornets up, singing, cheering for the team as Vitality took back to the stage. Yamato was riling the guys and girls up, getting them to cheer and scream and yell, because Vitality have no room left for error. Down 0-2 in their first semi-final series, or their semi-final series here against Schalke. And they are under pressure, but a completely different team composition. So let's talk a little bit early game. I feel like this Draven Braum gonna have some tools to play with and definitely gonna be the focus of my eyes.
Exactly. Vitality are certainly going to be down here trying to snowball Attila. They tried it back in game 2. It didn't fully work out, but we still saw Attila dominating in that 2v2 in the bottom lane. We expect more of that, but without those mistakes, with a much more focused approach to that gank.
And the mistakes are almost the worst part, because it means all the theory just suddenly is thrown out the window. We can sit here and say, oh yeah, you should be able to do this and do that, and then the first time they do it, if something fails and Schalke just take them down and get a bunch of kills, the whole plan is gone. And that's kind of been Vitality's problem. They've actually had the tools to early snowball in 2 games, just completely failed to do it on their side.
And the plan is changing a little bit too, because Jiizuké in game 1 on the Galio ran Predator. This time it's on the Aftershock. We actually saw him die at level 2 in a 1v1 against amazing Skarner. Now he has some more survivability, some more tankiness for this matchup against Nukeduck, which can get a little bit more exciting as we go on.
So let's track. Kikis is spotted early. What we know about a matchup like this, if Kikis can keep the range, it's hard for Amazing to deal proper damage, but Amazing does have his charge. And once you get in melee range of the Kindred, you can keep her there very, very effectively. So Amazing obviously is not necessarily looking for a lot of early fights on a Poppy, but he does have tools to keep Kikis in place.
And of course, when it comes to the later game team fight, Schalke do have the tools to try and knock people out of the Lamb's Respite with the Poppy charge. VandeR also has the headbutt, so we'll be watching those specific players, not just to start off and engage these fights, but also play very well around Kikis.
Oh, mid lane.
Nukeduck is looking so good today. Remember last week how much pressure Nukeduck was under from Niski? Today, it's roles reversal. He has Jiizuké's number.
Yeah, Niski and Xerxes was in that mid lane against him. Not been the case here. Kikis has not found any success around mid lane himself. He's actually not really found a whole lot of success in this series, because when he's tried to invade, backup wasn't there, or no camps for him to take. But Jiizuké running Aftershock is important because it makes him stronger in the 1v1. And that is a key thing because Nukeduck has been winning both lanes.
My eyes are on Jiizuké as well because he was the regular season star of Spring that faltered in those third place playoffs and really throughout the playoff run during the Spring splits. And for Jiizuké to turn that image around, needs to use this Aftershock Galio, needs to get Attila ahead as this Draven is going to have so much power in the early game.
Now this battle of the Scuttle Crab is actually really important. There is a mark on it, so Kikis will secure it, and you'll notice both top lane and mid lane for Vitality have the pressure. So he now has 2 Scuttle Crabs, is level 3, and can invade. Because Amazing tried to greed and actually contest both, he's now going to lose another buff.
That's a big problem for Amazing here. He's getting out jungle so far.
And this is sort of the Amazing that we expect to see, the one that would play a little more aggressively. Has the smite though, but Kikis gets it. That is so key. And I actually would like to see Kikis go back in once more, but he's geared up for the mid lane to go gank on Nukeduck.
Well, let's take a look. Nukeduck flashes away. Jiizuké follows up at the very last tick. Winds of War comes out, and here comes Kikis. Nukeduck may try to turn it back around. First blood available is going to pick it up. Manages to get shut down by Kikis, but first blood bonus gold.
Again, Schalke somehow managed to trade right back in the face of aggression. This should have been such a big win for Vitality, but Nukeduck pulls up big.
There's a good chance Jiizuké was hoping that Kikis would flash with him, so he instantly could start dealing damage to Nukeduck. But when Kikis didn't do that, Nukeduck had enough time to start dealing damage back to the Galio. Look at the setup again here. Jiizuké is holding the taunt for as long as possible.
Exactly, and Kikis comes in, even though you'd expect him to be there for the invade. He holds the taunt. Yeah, and that's what you would expect, right? To immediately proc the red buff, get an auto attack down, but no, Nukeduck can trade.
Nukeduck got 2 auto attacks before Kikis even started hitting him, which opened up for him to kill Jiizuké here. So it becomes a 1-for-1 trade. Amazing level 3 is trying for a gank.
Well, he needs to find a hero charge into the wall. The Rupture doesn't find a target. Chachi's holding on to that flash. Just going to use that Iron Ambassador passive and manage to walk away. But the question is, what can Kikis do with this flash? If he still wants to play aggressive, if he still wants to play into Schalke's face, he needs to make it pay off in the coming few minutes. Upset and Attila trading a couple of blows as Attila is using that spinning axe.
We tried to see Attila interrupt the headbutt of the Alistar. Actually just did it slightly too late, so the combo ended up landing onto him. But it's what you can do, and one of the reasons Draven works well against Alistar.
Now you asked, what does Kikis do? Well, go into the enemy jungle, get another mark for yourself. That's 2 marks now on the Kindred. But more importantly than that, I want to see him playing around bottom lane. Now, maybe come mid to force Nukeduck back, but Jiizuké is going to be ticking over to level 6 very, very soon. That's when we need to see a focus around Attila and Jactroll to try and snowball that lane.
Yeah, 100% agree, because Jiizuké is not interested in fighting Nukeduck 1v1. Once Nukeduck actually starts getting, you know, towards the Trinity Force, has ulti on his side, it's just not a fight you're going to win. You're going to lack damage. It's all about snowballing that bot lane.
All right, well, Amazing is actually going to throw Jiizuké backwards. Didn't find the wall. Don't really know if he was looking for that instead. But the Aftershock doing a whole lot of damage. At least he's burned through some of the mana for Jiizuké.
Now, right now, Amazing's very low, and Kikis is on the way. He's trying to go for the Scuttle Crab. He has top lane priority, but he does not win this 1v1.
All right, take a look at this. Here comes Vizicsacsi. No feast available to him. Going to try to help out. Smite fight on the cards. First to move from mid is Nukeduck. Kikis has that flash from earlier, remember? If he needs to use it. Amazing picks up the Scuttle Grab. Kikis flashes over the wall. No pin against the wall. Amazing. You need to make that count. Here comes Jiizuké. He may start charging the taunt.
No
It does so indeed. No flash for Nukeduck. He's running for his life. Blast Cone over in the top lane. Decimating Smash comes down. Who will secure the kill? That is the question for me. Nukeduck runs away and is Kikis.
Huge blunder there from Schalke. They could have easily just taken the flash, taken the Scuttle Crab away from Kikis, but instead, it's Amazing looking for the big play, but he misses the stun against the wall and ends up paying for it with his mid laner.
And this looks a lot like the kind of Vitality Schalke early game we were expecting going into the series. Kikis definitely outplays Amazing here. The Poppy is not working for him. Kikis actually right now knows he needs to just dodge the knock-up from Chachi, and then he can, worst case, flash the wall, but he decides to go over to Cabochard and then look at the play from Amazing. He does not get Kikis into the wall himself. He does not actually stun him, and now Jiizuké is here.
And of course, Nukeduck lost his flash in that earlier game. If you're wondering, what can he do with that Summoner Spell advantage? Well, they get Nukeduck here.
And right now, everything is just going over to Vitality. We just saw in the pip that Kikis took the Ocean Drake for his team. Another advantage, especially in the tank v tank matchup top. It's huge for the Sion to get more mana regen and everything around it. Bot lane, Attila is level 6 now. let's see if Vitality can actually pull off a play on this side of the map. Kikis is almost level 6, but he needs to recall first.
We'll keep an eye on it. Of course, coming into this game, Vitality's early game was supposedly a lot stronger. Schalke in the first 2 of the series, they really stepped up. I actually want to show you the differences between their at 15 stats during the regular season. 2.7 kills at 15, now 5.5 today. Minus 200 gold, now 1.1k, and 3 minutes quicker average game time. But this game 3 is going to affect those stats a lot.
And so much of those first 2 games and the leads they got was off the back of Amazing making these early game plays. But this time around, Vitality, Kikis, and Jiizuké have done such a good job of shutting down that avenue of play. As now Chachi has the flash, but is caught between 2 members.
And Sion ult is available if Cabochard wants to try and chase him. Chachi just gets to flash over. Did not walk back to the lane, so Cabochard could actually ult him. But that's now a flash gone top lane. There's no flash from Amazing either. No one on this top side can actually defend themselves.
And right now we've got both jungles sort of gearing up for a play around this middle lane. Kikis just waiting for the waves to clear, and then they can potentially look for rotation upward or the 2v2.
Man, Nukeduck hits so many of those flawless duets. A taunt comes out from that idol of the Duran, as well as the Keeper's Verdict, but the Lamb's Respite will buy a whole lot of time. No jungler dies just yet.
Oh,
Kikis is over the wall. No flash for either of them, remember? And the Whirling Death
Here comes Jactroll.
almost takes out Amazing. Amazing's running for his life. VandeR comes in. Nukeduck is now running as well. Jactroll trying to chase it down. Vitality get the kill.
They keep winning fights now. It's the opposite of last game. Kikis trying for another.
Oh,
This is so bold. This is so bold. Going all the way. Nukeduck, debated, manages to take down Kikis. That was overeager.
Great turn right there from VandeR and Nukeduck onto the over-aggression of Kikis, but it's still Vitality whacking away at this mid lane turret and getting the team fight win overall.
Are they going to get this tower? It looks like the case. They've got another minion lane. Minion wave, conga lining itself down. Tower first blood picked up. With the Galio into Irelia, this is what Jiizuké wants. Push that wave down and play on the side lanes.
Yeah, Vitality are okay taking this fight because they realize very quickly they can stay alive for a long time. And you start getting roams from the bottom lane. You have the Draven ult coming in as well, because it's not just a pure 2v2. Based on that, we actually go straight back to life because I think it's a kill top lane.
All right, teleport coming down. Vizicacsi's the target. He's got no flash available to him. Knocked up, taunted backwards, and just so easily run down. Cabo gets a kill.
This is classic Vitality 2, not giving their opponents any room to breathe. Now up 1,500 gold since they've taken down that mid lane tower. It's so easy for Jiizuké to vacate that middle lane and look for these maneuvers and these plays around the side lanes.
The air was sucked out of the studio when that Void Seeker connected onto Cabochard. Everybody looking at upsets Kai'Sa, who's got those Berserker's Greaves and BF Sword, and we were wondering whether or not he's going to dive in. Doesn't pull the trigger yet. He needs a lot more time before he's willing to throw down on the front line. And it was upsets Kai'Sa. Undefeated so far, 3-0 from the semifinals.
Yeah, this is Schalke versus Splice strategy now. Okay, we're not going to win the early game. Scale on our AD carry. Scale, scale, scale. We know he can carry in the late game if he gets there. Nukeduck is still one of the answers to try and stop Vitality from snowballing, but he just lost that last 2v2 fight in the mid lane because Vitality got there first.
And I don't think scaling is ever going to be 100% in the favor of either of these two teams, because while Schalke do have Kai'Sa, which is just a beast when it comes to late game team fighting, Vitality have 2 marksmen. Kikis is going to continue getting more and more damage here on this Kindred to really unlock later on into the match and really crush front lines.
He's already got himself 3 stacks at 10.5 minutes, which is exceptionally important. Got himself the Warrior Enchant Skirmisher as well, so Kikis is already in a very comfortable position. And as soon as he hits that 4th stack, a little extra range, a couple extra tools to play with.
And it's very clear right now, Vitality want to play around Attila. Look at all the vision on the top side of the map, setting up for a roam from Jiizuké. Kikis is walking straight through the top lane, going to clear those Krugs, and then set up a play around his duo lane.
It feels good when you can reuse your control wards, because those were actually placed earlier when they were winning the top side of the map. Then they swap Attila up and say, well, let's keep them. We don't need to keep the bottom side, because this is actually what we want now. We want our Draven to start getting close to the enemy turret, and also eventually get other objectives up here. And that's now the rift they're looking towards. Schalke on their side, if they want to try and fight here, they're gonna be in a disadvantage. The armor around though, Amazing's ult could turn the tides here. If he gets to knock 2 people over the wall, Schalke can win it for sure.
Well, let's see if Vizicsacsi has taught Amazing anything. Amazing starts to step forward. He's got the Keeper's Verdict. It's a fight on 2 fronts. Jiizuké, remember, can jump in with that ultimate of himself.
Here we go.
Verdict is Not fired just yet. No, it falls short. Amazing, that's simply not good enough. Here comes the unstoppable onslaught. Cabo backed up by Jiizuké. Nukeduck is so low on the back end. The decimating smash catches Upset. He's forced to flash over the wall. Whirling Death doesn't find anybody, and I think the Rift Herald was picked up by Kikis.
Somehow Schalke get out of that situation without losing a member, but yes, it is Kikis that picks up that Rift Herald, and they can use that to knock down more turrets.
Yeah, after that Poppy ult miss, this should have been a horrible fight for Schalke. They should have lost multiple members, but they actually managed to get out in time. We're not done yet.
Well, let's find out. What can Vitality do? A lot of their ultimates are on cooldown. Kikis is trying to chase down Amazing. The tower has been zoned away from. Stand aside used, and Vitality deciding they want to try back away. Nukeduck's making his way up. He's got the Vanguard's edge, but Vitality, they've split Schalke.
They're turning.
Schalke, what are you doing? VandeR's already down, and Jactroll is trying to be replied. Here comes Nukeduck. Lamb's Respite's buying a whole lot of time, and Upset is low on mana, but he's simply...
That's a turn!
Nukeduck is trying to get some damage, but look at Upset. He's going low. He's being bursted down, and Kikis has taken him out. Cabo's chasing down Amazing, and Vitality have won the fight.
Amazing, using those Predator boots to scoot on out of there, but it's Vitality that come away with a huge team fight win. When they're even, when they're ahead, they are so terrifying to team fight against.
And man, Cabochard played that fight so well on the Sion. Let's see the whole thing again. Notice how once Schalke feel they can actually re-engage, they're gonna walk into this brush, and they're not gonna respect what Sion can do. There's buying time, there's a control ward in here as well, and then there's a massive knock-up on 2 members into a re-engage after Kindred ult is gone.
It's a great turn that wouldn't have been possible without the Lamb's Respite either, buying so much time getting Jactroll out of a tough situation to win that fight.
Wow, that replay brought to you by Acer Predator. So was Amazing's amazing escape. Escaping that fight, but a little bit of miscommunication on the Schalke side, splitting up, allows Vitality a 4,000 gold lead, and you can already see the item advantage is starting to accrue, 1 completed down the line.
And that's kind of the thing here. Schalke have been successful 2 games in a row matching the early game fights. Take every single one. Vitality wants to fight you, you go for it instantly. And in this game, their composition is a lot of scaling with, Poppy, Cho'Gath, and a Kai'Sa. And they're not actually stronger when they take the fights, so they're getting punished.
And here's the thing, Vitality is a momentum-based team. There's a reason why they only dropped 1 game after picking up Kikis. They win, and then they keep on winning. So while they're down 2-0 in the series, after an early game like this, they can ride this high to more success.
Ender, I'm going to put that number to, or give you a number for that momentum-based team. Vitality are 14-2 with a lead at 15 minutes. And they have a 3,000 gold lead already. They've got themselves a Mountain Drake to back up the Ocean, and they have set themselves up to get their first win in the BO5. The biggest thing that I'm happy about, the team didn't crumble. The team didn't panic. The team changed their draft entirely, and they have showed up when their backs are against the wall.
I mean, it's the most important game for them all year long. They need a good start. They got the good start. Now they need to continue pushing forward without overextending, because you can't let Schalke scale. You want to keep winning these fights here.
All right, but here, what a cost.
Here we go.
Jumps onto VandeR, throws down the Glacial Prison, but Attila's sitting on the back line. There's a catch there onto the full stack. And
we can save them!
Keeper's verdict for the escape. Amazing is no Vizicsacsi, and that Keeper's verdict was simply not good enough.
The most stylish exit I've seen after picking up a kill, and the pressure doesn't stop because Cabo's pushing in the top lane. The crowd is here for Vitality. You can just feel it, guys.
Well, of course, the Golden Hornets are going to be happy about this turnaround. Vitality 6,000 gold up now as the game continues to play out, and scaling is what is needed. Schalke needs so much time to get back into this game, but they may not have the tools to do so. Vitality, with this team composition that was difficult to execute, has gotten off exactly where they needed to. And I just want to double check, how many stacks does Kikis have already?
1 million, let's just say
5
that.
stacks already.
This entire thing just for Vitality starts in the draft. They decided not to ban the same 2 supports. They decided to grab a different jungle matchup. Kikis gets his early Kindred. Jactroll's ult here is actually kind of bad, but it's onto VandeR.
They got the job done, Deficio.
They have someone they can hit.
Oh.
I think Amazing, the play he's trying to make here is fine. He's like, the only way for me to save my support is to get these guys away from him. And obviously comes in, by the time he's already dead.
Now, I like that you bring up the draft, too, because the two champions that worked every single time for Schalke was the Skarner for Amazing and the Ezreal for Upset. What's happened? What has their impact been when it's not been on these champions? 0-1-0 for both of those two players. So far, Kikis and Vitality's bottom lane have done such an excellent job of shutting down those key members.
Yeah, and of course also no Shen support, which was a huge issue in terms of fighting in the mid lane. They could not stop Nukeduck because whenever they tried, Shen showed up.
And it makes you really question the priority on these champions because, again, Alistar Braum were banned in both of the first two games. That led to this first pick Shen. Now, Alistar doesn't look as good as that Shen. What does this mean for the coming games? Because the draft could be just turned completely upside down.
Yeah, I don't want to flame VandeR at all because I actually feel like the bot lane were just farming and then they looked mid and top and they just saw everything fall
That's what Schalke
apart.
do.
And obviously that's how Vitality got ahead here. Now, sadly for Upset and VandeR, they've now become the casualties of what's gone wrong elsewhere on the map. But let's see what happens. Kikis wants more fighting.
Well, let's take a look what can happen. Not going to do anything as Vizicacsi's able to flash away for his life, but a 5-man stack for Vitality are now pushing that top turret. Took a look back really quickly. Attila, by the way, cashed in that Draven passive for his first kill. It was around 800 gold that he picked up. And now all of a sudden, Vitality, they're pushing down. Upset manages to get that Void Seeker, but you don't want to dive into the back line. He's simply not strong enough. And for now, Schalke hold on to the tower.
And right now, Cabo's building up big waves down on the bottom side of the map. Nukeduck is going to be the one to respond and pick up those minions, but there's no teleport on this Irelia, so Vitality have about 30 seconds now where they can look to make a play, whether it's a fight or just more damage on this mid lane tower. They have the numbers advantage.
But they were 5 members now. Nukeduck is catching that wave. You already highlighted Ender, how Cabochard built that wave on the bottom
Beautiful.
side. Great setup from Vitality so far.
And that's macro right there. Build pressure, make your opponents respond, then make sure you come with more members than the other team. They're going to do similar things because right now you see Jiizuké moving top. He's going to push out that wave. The rest of Vitality can look for that next turret coming up in the bottom lane.
That's a great thing about League of Legends. When you win every single lane, everyone can shock Kold. Because it doesn't even matter what you do, you're just going to push down the waves, and eventually you're going to go to a place where you have 5 players and they don't. And then you take a turret, you grab a kill for yourself. The problem for Vitality is when the Baron spawns. I always get nervous when Vitality get near Barons, because they don't have the slow and beautiful setup. It's the start it, fight for it, let's see what happens.
Yeah, and usually the next step in the evolution of that macro play is set up around the Baron with the push going on in the bottom lane. They're going to have to maintain control with how they play out the coming minutes because we've seen it before. If you make a mistake against the Schalke team and you give them room to come back in the game, take it to late game, that's where you really fall into a tough position if you're Vitality.
Yeah, I mean, we just saw last week, Upset on Kai'Sa, go to late game and carry team fights.
That's scary.
It's the same thing they look for, but he's so far away from it now. Vitality have so much time to start pushing out mid and top, start the Baron, and just force Schalke to face check you. And then you turn and fight them.
Deficio, we know Schalke are okay playing from behind. We've seen it many times. Now, 7,000 gold behind feels like a lot more difficult of a scenario to come back from. So does it really boil down to relying on Vitality to misplay for them to close that gap in the short term?
I always feel like when you're this far down, it's out of your hands if you actually win the game or not. It's all on the team who are super far ahead to just execute around the Baron itself and use that to win the game. If they don't do that, you actually get the chance to come back.
Wow, look at the damage onto Amazing. Throws the ultimate down, and despite a good stun from Nukeduck, it's simply not enough. Kikis gets another.
When you fall behind like this, it's about minimizing loss. Now, we're post 20 minutes. There is a Baron on the map, and Schalke lost their jungler for the next 25 seconds. Vitality have 2 marksmen on this objective, and Schalke are slow to respond.
And that is the perfect setup for Vitality. You don't even need the slow and boring game. No boring Baron dance. They rush in, they find Amazing, they shut down the weak link, and then they grab the objective without having to fight for it.
I just love the fact the first rotation Braum Kindred for Jactroll and Kikis is what set up that Baron play. Jactroll finds Amazing, Kikis brings him home. They're going to secure a 3rd dragon immediately after. And by the way, Vitality, 4 towers to 0, 9,000 gold in the lead, 3 dragons to 0. This is the biggest stomping we've seen all series long.
He sees him killing the ward.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like Amazing's the one trying to set up the trap for Kikis, and he's just late on the reply. Sees ward go down, still standing in place, then Jactroll lands the knockup. There's no escape for Amazing, even though he had the flash.
Well, Jiizuké is going to flash away after teleporting into the top tower. There is a TP that was being channeled and cancelled by Vizicsacsi as the Whirling Death flies out and returns. Attila not really going to do a whole lot more with that. But he's sitting very comfortable. The tower stands still. 0 towers secured for Schalke.
Yeah, so that was the small window after Baron is taken down where the team that loses Baron can look to make a play. It doesn't work out. They got the flash, which is good. That's a big engage tool stolen away from Vitality. But now they just have to go in total turtle mode, clear the waves as best they can.
And it's so difficult when Cho'Gath is your only AoE wave clear playing into a Baron buff. Yes, Kikis has now been knocked away thanks to the Keeper's verdict. Cabochard is going to flash away from the rupture, but look at the mid lane. Attila is destroying the tower. Cabo comes back to finish the bottom inner turret. That's 2 towers secured already, as Schalke still do not know how to stop this push. Vitality are onto their first inhibitor. Look at that damage onto Upset. He's chunked down, and the inhibitor's blown open. Vitality on done.
I know, and the bottom lane is completely exposed. Vitality are not stopping. There's still 5 members of Schalke alive, but they are nothing up against this complete unit here from Vitality charged into the base.
I'm so happy we got to see the Vitality that went 11-1 with Kikis. And not the Vitality we saw last game that just collapsed. The moment the first play backfired there, it looked like the team almost gave up and everything just went in favor of Schalke. But with the new draft, with Kikis playing way better than he did in the first 2 games on this Kindred, Vitality looked fantastic.
See, I love narrative, I love story, but I love Cabochard's build. It is lethality Sion time, baby. This is what he does. When Vitality gets lead, this guy will build crazy. He'll build Titanic Cleaver on Mundo. He'll build Guardian Angel on Mundo. I've seen him build crazier things on champions, and now it's on the Sion.
Ender, you are a very young gun and new to the EU LCS, but Cabochard has always been one with a fan for flair. You know, he's always enjoyed styling on kids.
It's true.
And that's exactly what he's going to be looking to do today.
We have to also remember that Cabochard, when he joined the league and he was on Gambit, he took the spot of Darien.
He learned a lot.
Top laner famous for a lot of very unique builds. None of them very effective, but he still managed to win. In this case here, Cabochard, you get a few points for the lethality, but you gotta hard commit and go for it instantly. Otherwise, it's not really lethality.
Yeah.
And I think Cabochard has been one of a little bit of the unsung heroes of Vitality from the public perception. He's had such a good summer split and
Attila
amazing. Goes for that Keeper's verdict, but here comes Jiizuké with that hero's entrance right back in. Whirling Death did a lot of damage, and for now, Schalke have stopped the tower kill.
Yeah, that was so far the perfect setup for Schalke, but they didn't get a kill yet. They got a flash though. Can they get anything? VandeR's flash is available if they reach the backline. The problem is Kikis' ult is there.
They have to make a play because just in a moment, minion waves are going to be on those Nexus towers. This next wave is the one that makes or breaks this push from Vitality.
There's simply no room for error. VandeR does it.
There we go.
That's the flash engage and the knockup. Now trying to find some damage. It's a 12,000 gold deficit. Double kill for Attila. Trying to find himself a couple more. Labs respite. Buy some time. Kikis running for his life. He goes down. That's a triple kill for Attila. He's looking for more. Vizicsacsi is potentially the quadra kill. And he manages to secure it. There's a pentakill up for grabs. Vitality of the team that would fountain dive. They are going to think about it. This is the Upset versus Attila fight that Sjokz set up. Get it! Kill. Trying to chase him down. Attila is down. The game isn't over yet, but the minions are going to not be enough. I respect it. In Attila versus Upset, they went for the fountain dive.
I mean, I respect it, man, but that cost them a lot. They got everything in the face of Schalke.
Making the call right now. If this ends up in a Schalke win, then that was the dumbest play we've ever seen in the EU LCS.
That is the best analysis you have ever done.
There we go. However,
Deficio.
if Vitality still win, respect for their potential style points.
The thing is, that dive, that fountain dive is Vitality. This is the core of the team. They play for those moments.
And I really hope we get a replay of the fountain dive too, so we can break that down. But it's Attila in the backline who stays alive. Kikis as well, using that Lamb's Respite to kite back and turn this fight around because Vitality were so far ahead. They had the quadra. This is it in their eyes. They're going to lead with the tank now. This is a highly mechanical breakdown, but Upset still has ult, still has flash, still has heal. So when Attila ends up tanking the turret, because he's the closest one to it, not Cabochard, he goes down and can't find the penta.
He will try and get the penta now.
I'm so glad I got to break down a fountain dive too. That is the best part of my day by far.
In a semi-final on the EU LCS when you're down
baby.
0-2.
All right, let's see whether or not Schalke can hold off. Their inhibitors will come up very, very soon. Also, they managed to keep their top inhibitor turret. Will this come back to bite Vitality in the behind? They've still got an 11,000 gold lead. Inhibitors are just seconds away from respawning, and Vitality pushing away.
Flash on Upset!
There's a flash taunt! Upset is down! That was the final fight. That's the first for Attila. Not gonna find the second as Jactroll and Cabochard get the third. The Nexus will be the focus, and it was not a throw. Vitality, they bounce back to win game 3.
I'm very glad they managed to win the last fight. I could not watch 20 minutes of Schalke getting back and Vitality potentially losing based on that one play, but this is what you need. You just stomped Schalke while being 2-0 down.
The crowd is electric here in Berlin. It's incredible. Down 0-2, Vitality come back to play, completely shake things up in the draft. Kikis looked like a new man, and they pulled away with a win.
Yep, and this was the game that we expected in game 1. This was the level of performance that a lot of professional players and analysts predicted for Vitality to win the series. Now the shoe's on the other foot. How does Schalke bounce back?
Well, luckily for Schalke, they still have 2 games to do it.
Yep.
So by obviously going ahead 2-0, due to good prep, finding the Skarner pick formation, these kind of things, they're now still in a great spot. Some people say that 2-0 is the worst lead to have, because if the enemy then win a game,
Yep.
they get momentum, they get confidence,
The question is,
on you.
who is going to tilt more? Unfortunately, I'm going to have to hold there. We'll get more later in the series. For now, we're going to hear from the analysts.
Thank you very much, Trevor. Vitality is right back in this. They didn't let Schalke waltz over them and take it to match point and win that match point. No, Vitality is back. So let's take a look at how exactly they did it. Pick and bans-wise, we had a bit of criticism towards Vitality and maybe the plans they crafted in the first couple of games. What was good from Vitality coming into game 3?
I mean, obviously, if you're down 0-2, something needs to change in game, and they did the adaptation. They banned the Skarner, they banned the S04. They put them off comfort in this case, and I think that really showed the difference in for example, the champion pool of Amazing, because we saw in this game he had absolutely 0 impact, whereas in the other games he had a lot of impact. So I think that this was the most crucial adaptation in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel like that Schalke were forced more into these scaling type of picks, with Kai'Sa down the bot lane much more towards that 3-item spike rather than the 2 items from Ezreal. And then the same for the Poppy. We weren't able to see a lot of early game ganks coming out from Amazing either, very similar to what Kold was saying. So I feel like the direction that Vitality took, which was, we're going to force you to change your play pattern, but we're going to stick to ours of hyper early game aggression with things like the Kindred, the Draven as well, definitely worked out for Vitality.
Also a bit of comfort coming in for Jiizuké and Galio once again. And a couple of the things that we were looking at coming into the day were, what is Kikis going to be able to do and how is he going to be able to pressure the opponents with his mid-jungle synergy? We haven't really seen that play out until this game. We have a couple of replays of how in the early game Kikis hung around rather mid lane a lot and did this much better than in the previous 2 games.
Definitely. I actually had the pleasure of having a small chat with Andre before the coach of Schalke before the game, and he said the name of the game will be mid priority, and I think it really has shown it in 3 games that whoever comes out ahead in the 2v2 in the mid lane really takes over the game. And I think in this game, especially Kikis did a great job of facilitating Jiizuké, and we saw when Jiizuké gets ahead on Galio, he roams the map, he makes plays, and that's what set them up for success.
When I looked at a lot of these kills, because still often it went 1 kill each way and whatnot, and it just seems like the game of inches swung a bit more in Vitality's favor, and they ran with it really well, because there were a lot of skirmishes also in the previous 2 games, so why did they work now and did they not work before?
Well, it ties back into what we were talking about earlier, which was the draft with which Schalke have for themselves is much more towards the scaling side. And if we think about to the previous games when these mid-game fights were happening around like 17, 20 minutes, Schalke had actually hit their item spikes, were in a good position to fight a lot of the comps that Vitality drafted, which weren't even designed for the full 5v5. This time around, Draven, very strong at 1 item. Kindred, very strong at 1 item. Galio, you're kind of seeing the trend where it's much easier for this composition to force these skirmishes, and against Schalke, they were that much stronger.
And when Vitality does get a lead, we know that they do very well with those. We talked a lot about the AD carry rivalry before coming into this possibly deciding game, Attila versus Upset. And this time around, Attila says, well, you know what? I'm not out of this one yet. I'm going to pick my Draven.
No, he had a fantastic game. He wasn't the core playmaker, but in these late game fights, you saw that his positioning was fantastic. He was a large contributor in terms of the damage output. And I just feel like it's worth noting that in game 3, they took Upset off his comfort in Ezreal. They allowed Attila to get another comfort in the Draven, and he had a fantastic performance.
I also just want to point out, like, for once, I actually feel like Vitality had a draft in the current meta that actually makes sense. I think especially the game 2 draft from Vitality was absolutely terrible. I didn't like it at all. But this made sense, you know. You have a tank in the top lane, you have Kikis on one of his best champions, Kindred, and you play towards the mid and bottom side and snowball the game. And I think it really helped them that the conditions were much more simple in a way. And then we see this kind of stuff.
Yeah. I don't want to linger on it too long because it was kind of disrespectful. But
I think if this was the last game and they would go home now, then I think Yamato would probably do some things to them that I don't want to go too much into.
Yeah.
But it's also about keeping it in a good state, keeping the team at a good place where going into next game they will be ready.
yeah, and I have to say the fact that they bounce back alone is huge for Vitality. We've often talked about how they can be a pretty streaky team, and especially when they get in that vibe of winning, they go from strength to strength. So now the ball is in Schalke's court. What do they have to change now going into game 4?
Well, I feel that we need to see Amazing on something that he can have some kind of early game impact on, or you deny Kikis the ability to make early game plays. One of these two things has to happen. Otherwise, Vitality is going to consistently find these early game leads. And I want to know what else is in the AD carry pool for the side of Schalke, because you can't afford to blind pick Kai'Sa anymore, given the number of strong snowbally bot laners that Attila is willing to play.
I think it is actually okay to pick the Kai'Sa like they did. But on the other hand, then they need to get a stronger top side of the map. This game, they opted up for it was the Cho'Gath against Sion, and nothing really is happening there. I like the Rumble adaptation in the second game actually a lot more, because then I think it's fine to give up a weaker bottom side and just play over top side. So they need some tools in the early game to control the team of Vitality.
Well, conversely, Vitality is still down match point. They still have to make huge moves rather to stay in this race and stay in the fight for the final. So let's take a look at our revised keys to victory for Vitality. A strong mid-jungle 2v2. We had this going in, but it just has proven more true as we've seen the games play out.
I mean, definitely. This is just the name of the game right now. I think a lot of it honestly comes down to the jungle. I love talking about the jungle, but
yeah.
The poppy pick really didn't work out well for Amazing, and maybe it's time to bring back the Sejuani. We don't know, but the adaptation from Vitality to remove the Skarner that has some early game pressure really helped them out. So they need to keep this going, and I think now it's actually on Schalke to adapt. What kind of picks do you have prepared?
Yeah, and this kind of ties into our second key to victory, which is continue to force Schalke onto more scaling. As Kold mentioned, he's right. You can look to just play through topside, but I feel like they're much more comfortable on tanks in the top and then carries towards the bot side. So if Vitality want to maintain this early game snowball that they pulled off very effectively in this game, I think forcing Schalke into a scaling position makes it that much easier to do.
Or if you want to slow down the game pace a little bit more, then go back to the Shen. The Shen support is a pick that you can utilize to slow down the game pace, because taking fights on especially in mid lane and top lane, where the enemy can just all the time bring in the Shen, really helps down picking the right fights. So I think that is something Schalke should look for.
What are our guts saying? What is our gut saying? Is Vitality coming back and forcing a game 5, or is Schalke just going to go back to business as usual in game 4 and clean this out?
Well, I predicted 3-2 for Schalke,
yes.
So my gut says 3-2 for Schalke.
Okay, cool. Something not pertaining to your prediction, but actually pertaining to the analysis you can give after games.
So, do we know what side they're playing on?
Yes, Schalke is on red side.
Okay, so I think it's going to be 3-1 to Schalke.
3-1
because from what I've seen so far is the fact that whoever can counter pick mid lane actually had an upper hand in the game. And I think Nukeduck is more prepared to do this, especially on red side.
Yeah.
The champion ocean, as we call it. So My gut says Schalke, even though I started off today with 3-0 Vitality.
Yeah,
So,
everything overboard.
things changed.
Everything overboard. Well, after that last game, we will talk about the playoffs in the EOS post-game lobby. The last game, if it's the next one or the one after that, we'll have post-game lobby. And we also want to hear from you. Remember, you can send us who you think will win the summer split and why at LOL Esports on Twitter using the hashtag #PingTheLobby. But for now, we're going to take a quick break after Vitality, who had their backs against the wall. They took a crucial win back. Their eyes are set on the reverse sweep and a spot in the final. Let's see if they can do it in 3.5.
Vizicacsi's the target. He's got no flash available to him. Knocked up, taunted backwards, and just so easily run down. Cabo gets a kill. He's trying to be replied. Here comes Nukeduck. Lamb's Respite's buying a whole lot of time, and Upset is low on mana, but he's simply... Nukeduck is trying to get some damage, but look at Upset. He's going low. He's being bursted down, and Kikis has taken him out. Room for error. VandeR does it. There we go. That's the flash engage and the knockup. Now trying to find some damage. It's a 12,000 gold deficit. Double kill for Attila. Kikis running for his life. He goes down. That's a triple kill for Attila. He's looking for more. Vizicsacsi is potentially the quadra kill. And he manages to secure it. Seconds away from respawning and Vitality pushing away. There's a flash taunt. Upset is down. That was the final fight. That's the first for Attila. Not going to find the second is Jactroll. The Nexus will be the focus. And it was not a throw. Vitality, they bounce back to win game 3.